Hello and welcome to another planning appeal case study video. I'm John Peters, and in this video I'm going to explain how we overcame a recent refusal by Barking and Dagenham Council where they served an enforcement notice on our client. The planning appeal was to overcome an enforcement notice claiming a breach in planning control for a new dwelling that was refused by the local authority Barking and Dagenham Council initially. Our client was initially booked in for a free no obligation consultation to run through the refusal reasons that had been used by Barking and Dagenham Council and what they detailed in the enforcement notice to evaluate if an appeal was viable or if an alternative option would be best suited. The free no obligation consultation, which took around 30 minutes, was found that in this case was viable for appeal to the Planning Inspectorate, taking the decision process away from Barking and Dagenham Council Planning Department. The enforcement notice was served because Barking and Dagenham believed it appeared to them that there was a breach in planning control under section 171A-1 of the Act. Barking and Dagenham enforcement team claimed the subdivision of the dwelling creating an unauthorised unit of self-contained accommodation results in a loss of a larger family dwelling to the detriment of the stock of the family housing of the borough, contrary to policies. Additionally, Barking and Dagenham enforcement team claimed the intensive use of the property will have a negative impact on present and future occupiers and neighbours. Also, it will lead to a material increase in levels of noise and disturbance of the detriment of the residential amenity of both occupiers and neighbouring occupiers. The development exacerbates the shortfall of car parking as it does not provide adequate parking for the number of residents the property would support. This is contrary to policies. As an organisation, we've been finding recently a large number of errors in local authority planning officer decisions and enforcement notices. These errors help support our appeal cases. We do suspect the increase in errors has been caused by cutbacks at local authorities and unprecedented increase in workloads. In this case, the inspector acknowledged an error in the enforcement notice and in his report explained that under section 55(3)(a) of the 1990 Act provides that the use as two or more separate dwelling houses of any building previously used as a single dwelling house involves a material change of use of the building as a whole and each part of it which is so used. In other words, the provision of self-contained dwellings within what was a single dwelling house represents a material change of use for the whole building and each dwelling individually within. In light of this, there's a misdescription in the breach of alleged planning control in paragraph 3 of the notice. This is because two unauthorised self-contained units of accommodation have been created rather than one, as it's suggested in the enforcement notice. In addition, the inspector considered that the term dwelling is more precise than the term unit of accommodation used in the notice, and there is nothing to suggest that either main party considers that what has occurred is anything other than dwelling creation. The inspector, under these powers, corrected the enforcement notice issued by Barking and Dagenham Enforcement to correct the error. Additionally, the inspector said there was a second error in the enforcement notice issued. The notice stated that the property reverts back to a single family dwelling, but an enforcement notice cannot require a lawful use is actively carried out, so he decided to remove that part of the enforcement notice altogether. As an organisation, we handle over 2.5% of all planning appeals in England and Wales that are currently produced and submitted, and as such, a large number of enforcement cases. It is more important than in any other type of planning appeal that a comprehensive and robust appeal statement is produced. The inspector in this decision for the case concluded that the council in some of their points had not provided sufficient detail information to support part of their claim. I would say that's down to the fact that we argued comprehensively and robustly to get to that point. For this specific case covered, we produced a 14-page appeal statement which was just over 4,900 words. It's important to detail in the enforcement appeal statement where the local authority failed in their assessment of the case and how and where both local and national policies apply in favour of the appeal. Additionally, if possible, bring in similar cases that the Planning Inspector has found favour of at appeal. Once an appeal statement is completed, we send the document to our client, asking them to check that they are happy for us to submit the case. If we need to add any additional information that the client may have forgotten previously to supply, it is done at this point and the case is then submitted. It's vitally important that all the documents and responses are submitted on time throughout the process. Enforcement notices had a dramatically reduced amount of time to appeal of normally only 28 days, and failure to do so will result in the appeal not being successful, something we hear about often when people try and attempt an appeal for the first time themselves. Always ensure you use a professional who has considerable experience of enforcement appeals. You only have one opportunity to get this right, and it is worth asking them for some recent successful planning appeal case studies like the ones you find on our website. Due to the large number of enforcement and planning appeal cases we represent, we have a dedicated team that liaises with the Planning Inspectorate on a daily basis. For this appeal, an independent planning inspector from the Planning Inspectorate visited our site on the 29th of March, and we're pleased to confirm that the enforcement notice was quashed, and that means that the permission was granted on the 19th of April in a 5-page appeal decision notice. If you would like to find out if we can help you with your enforcement planning appeal, complete our online form on our website, www.planningappealsuk.com, and our new case support team will arrange a free no obligation consultation with one of our planning appeal assessment professionals. As mentioned earlier, time is not on your side, and the sooner you act, the more time there is to produce a robust and comprehensive appeal statement. Because of a recent change in the Levelling Up Act, the right to appeal under grounds A of an enforcement notice and request the permission has been removed in certain circumstances. If you have a retrospective planning application that has been refused, do not wait to appeal that notice, as you might find that you have no right to appeal at a later date if an enforcement notice is issued. Thank you for taking the time to watch this planning appeal case study video, and I look forward to producing another one shortly. Thank you very much. Bye.